So there I was, sitting in the Galactic Council chamber, which looked less like a United Nations meeting and more like someone had thrown a zoo, a sci-fi convention, and a corporate board meeting into a blender. My name is Jake Morrison, and I had the incredibly lucky job of being Earth's ambassador to a bunch of aliens who thought they were hot stuff. Ambassador Threxus, who looked like what would happen if a Komodo dragon hit the gym and developed an anger management problem, slammed his clawed fist on the crystalline table. "My people have conquered 17 death worlds," he announced, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. "We have stared into the eyes of the plasma serpents of Draxon 5 and made them blink first. We fear no beast in this galaxy." Oh boy, here we go. Commander Velnu, a mantis-looking creature whose species shared a hive mind and apparently shared one brain cell between them, clicked her mandibles in agreement. The Velnu Collective has survived the acid oceans of Melkor Prime, where predators dissolve their prey from the inside out. We have evolved beyond fear itself. I munched on my trail mix, wondering if this was really how I wanted to spend my Tuesday. The council chamber erupted in a chorus of alien bragging. Everyone had conquered something. Everyone had survived something worse. It was like the galaxy's most depressing game of one-upmanship, except with more tentacles and fewer participation trophies. Finally, Threxus turned his reptilian gaze toward me. "And what of Earth, human? What terrible beasts has your species conquered to earn your place among the stars?" I swallowed my trail mix. "Well, we have bears." Silence. "Bears," Velnu repeated, her translator making it sound even more underwhelming than I had. "Yeah, big furry things with claws. They're pretty scary. I was really selling it." Threxus laughed, which sounded like rocks tumbling down a mountain. "We have reviewed your planetary database, human. Your Earth is a paradise world. You have creatures you call puppies. You have invented a beverage called pumpkin spice. Your most popular entertainment involves watching cats do amusing things on your internet. I mean, those cats can be pretty intense," I offered weakly. "We challenge you," Velnu announced, rising from her seat with way too much dramatic flair. "Prove to this council that Earth harbors anything remotely dangerous. Prove that humanity deserves to sit among warriors. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I accidentally condemned the Galactic Council to meet Mr. Whiskers. I should have said no. I should have faked a diplomatic incident. I should have claimed Earth had suddenly been quarantined due to a particularly aggressive strain of the common cold. But no, my mouth decided to operate independently of my brain, which is pretty much how humanity has made every major decision in its history. "Fine," I said, leaning back in my chair with what I hoped looked like confidence, and not the early stages of a panic attack. "You want proof? Pick any human household at random. Anyone. Drop in for a cultural exchange visit. Meet the locals. Experience Earth's fauna firsthand." Threxus's eyes gleamed with what I can only describe as predatory excitement. "Any household? At random? Completely random," I confirmed, already regretting everything. The council murmured among themselves, which sounded like a broken dishwasher having an argument with a malfunctioning garbage disposal. They were loving this. In their minds, they were about to visit some quaint human dwelling, pat a golden retriever on the head, and cement their position as the galaxy's apex badasses. Commander Velnu activated the selection protocol, a fancy holographic display that would randomly choose coordinates from Earth's residential database. The numbers spun like a cosmic slot machine, and I watched with the kind of dread usually reserved for watching someone juggle chainsaws near your car. The coordinates locked in: suburban Ohio, a nice neighborhood with good schools and reasonable property taxes. Then the specific address appeared, and my blood turned to ice water. Margaret Morrison. My Aunt Maggie. "Oh no," I whispered. "Problem, human?" Threxus asked, his massive scaled head tilting with curiosity. "No, no problem at all." I lied through my teeth. "Aunt Maggie is lovely. Very welcoming. Great host. Makes excellent cookies. What I didn't mention was Mr. Whiskers. 17 pounds of orange tabby cat, with one eye, 0 patience, and the disposition of a small, furry war crime. Mr. Whiskers had sent 3 mail carriers into early retirement. The neighborhood kids had legends about him. Other cats crossed the street to avoid him. He was less a pet and more a contained natural disaster with fur." "Excellent," Velnu clicked enthusiastically. "We shall deploy immediately. Full tactical team for documentation purposes." "Tactical team?" I asked. "For suburban Ohio?" "We are. Warriors, human. We arrive prepared." Threxus stood, his armor clanking with importance. "Gather your delegation. We leave within the hour. As they filed out of the chamber, already discussing their tactical approach to meeting my sweet elderly aunt, I pulled out my communicator. I should warn Aunt Maggie. I should warn the aliens. I should warn someone. Instead, I just stood there, trail mix forgotten, thinking about Mr. Whiskers' favorite hobby, sitting perfectly still in dark corners and scaring people for sport. This is going to be a disaster, I muttered. But the council had spoken. The challenge was accepted, and somewhere in Ohio, an orange tabby with murder in his one good eye was about to teach the galaxy's finest warriors the true meaning of fear. I really should have gone into accounting. The diplomatic shuttle landed in Aunt Maggie's driveway with all the subtlety of a meteor strike, which really did wonders for the property value. Her neighbors, Deborah and Tom, were absolutely going to have questions at the next HOA meeting. Threxus emerged first, ducking through the shuttle door in full tactical armor that looked like it could survive a nuclear blast. Commander Velnu followed, flanked by 4 other members of her Hive collective, all wearing matching combat gear and scanning equipment. They had brought enough firepower to invade a small country, and they were using it to visit a 72-year-old woman who did crossword puzzles and watched game shows. I trudged behind them, carrying a fruit basket I had panic bought at the spaceport. It seemed like the least I could do before introducing my aunt to potential intergalactic warfare. Aunt Maggie opened the door before we even knocked, wearing her favorite floral cardigan and an expression of pure delight. "Jake, you didn't tell me you were bringing friends." She looked up at Threxus, who towered over her like a scaly skyscraper, and smiled. "My goodness, aren't you tall? Come in, come in. I just made cookies." "Madam Morrison," Threxus began formally, trying to bow and nearly taking out her porch light fixture with his head. "We are honored to accept your hospitality in the name of the Galactic Council." "Oh, how fancy. Just call me Maggie, dear." "Everyone does." She ushered us into her living room, which smelled like vanilla and cinnamon, and looked like every grandmother's house ever. Floral couch, doilies on every surface, and approximately 4,000 porcelain figurines that probably cost more than my college education. The aliens filed in, their scanning equipment beeping and whirring. Velnu's antennae twitched as she analyzed the atmosphere. Oxygen-nitrogen ratio optimal, temperature comfortable, no apparent threats detected. "Well, of course not, honey," Aunt Maggie said, patting Velnu's chitinous arm like she was comforting a nervous child. "This is Ohio. Worst we get is the occasional aggressive squirrel. Now, who wants tea? I have chamomile, Earl Grey, or that fancy green stuff that Jake sent me last Christmas." Threxus exchanged a glance with Velnu that clearly communicated. This is what the human was worried about? Tea and cookies? I tried to relax. Maybe Mr. Whiskers was asleep. Maybe he was outside terrorizing the local wildlife. Maybe, just maybe, we would get through this visit without incident. The aliens would admit Earth was boring, and I could go back to my normal job of filing diplomatic reports about trade agreements. That is when I heard it. The jingle of a collar bell. Slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway. My spine turned to ice. "Oh!" Aunt Maggie clapped her hands together. "Mr. Whiskers must have heard we have visitors. He loves meeting new people." "Loves is a strong word, Aunt Maggie," I said quickly. "Maybe we should let him nap. I am sure our guests do not want to be bothered by a cat." "Nonsense. Mr. Whiskers would never forgive me." Threxus actually chuckled, a sound like grinding gravel. "Human, your concern over a small domestic feline is amusing. My people have faced predators with acid for blood. I think we can handle a pet." The jingling stopped. The hallway went silent. Then he appeared. Mr. Whiskers emerged from the shadows like a furry orange tank rolling into battle. He was massive for a house cat. 17 pounds of solid muscle wrapped in marmalade fur that looked deceptively soft. His left eye was missing, lost in some long-ago battle that Aunt Maggie referred to as the incident with the raccoon. The remaining eye, a brilliant green, fixed on the aliens, with the cold calculation of a military strategist assessing enemy forces. His tail, thick as a rope, swished once, left, then right. "Is that the beast?" Velnu asked, her mandibles clicking in what I recognized as amusement. "It appears damaged, missing an optical sensor." "That is not damage," I said quietly. "That is a war trophy. His eye is somewhere else. The other guy's dignity went with it." Mr. Whiskers sat down in the middle of the living room, perfectly centered, like he owned the place. Which, let us be honest, he absolutely did. Aunt Maggie was just the staff. "He is so cute." One of Velnu's Hive collective reached toward him. The database said humans find these creatures adorable and comforting. Do not, I started to say, but Threxus was already moving. He knelt down, extending one massive clawed hand toward Mr. Whiskers. Greetings, small Earth predator. I am Ambassador Threxus of the Draxon Empire. I have conquered 17 death worlds and faced beasts that would make your evolutionary ancestors weep with terror. Mr. Whiskers' pupil dilated. Slowly, deliberately, from a narrow slit to a black void that seemed to contain the heat death of the universe. His ears flattened against his skull. Aunt Maggie, I said, my voice rising an octave, maybe you should tell them about Mr. Whiskers' personal space requirements. Oh, he is fine with new people, she said cheerfully, pouring tea, like she was not about to witness an interstellar incident. He is just taking their measure. He does that with everyone. Threxus' hand was now inches from Mr. Whiskers' head. You see, human? The creature accepts my dominance. It recognizes a superior predator. Mr. Whiskers' tail stopped swishing. That was when I knew. In the animal kingdom, when a predator stops moving, that is not submission, that is target lock. Threxus, I said. I really think you should. Mr. Whiskers moved. I do not know if you have ever seen a house cat engage combat mode, but it is like watching a furry missile achieve sentience and choose violence. 1 second he was sitting there, looking like a slightly grumpy ottoman. The next second he was airborne, all 4 paws extended, claws deployed like switchblades, headed directly for Threxus' face with the kind of commitment usually reserved for kamikaze pilots. Threxus, to his credit, had survived 17 death worlds. His reflexes were incredible. He jerked backward, his armor's defense systems activating with a high-pitched whine. It did not matter. Mr. Whiskers did not care about armor. Mr. Whiskers had the home field advantage, and 17 pounds of righteous fury. The cat hit Threxus' chestplate with a sound like a small car crash. Claws screeched against alien alloy. Threxus, a 7-foot-tall reptilian warrior who had personally strangled a plasma serpent, let out a sound I can only describe as a shriek. Get it off. Get it off. Mr. Whiskers clung to his armor, one-eyed and unhinged, yowling like an air raid siren having a bad day. And Aunt Maggie, sweet Aunt Maggie, just smiled and said, "Oh, he likes you. He only does that with people he likes." I buried my face in my hands. This was going to be a very long cultural exchange. The next 30 seconds were pure chaos set to the soundtrack of alien screaming and feline war cries. Threxus spun in a circle, trying to dislodge Mr. Whiskers from his chestplate, but the cat had locked in like a furry barnacle with anger management issues. His claws had found the seams in the armor, those tiny gaps that engineers never think about because who designs military equipment with cats in mind? Threxus' species had conquered worlds. They had never fought anything that weaponized spite and cardio. Tactical analysis. Tactical analysis. Velnu shouted to her hive collective, all of whom had immediately formed a defensive perimeter. The creature has engaged primary target. Recommend immediate extraction protocols. It is a cat! Threxus roared, finally managing to pry Mr. Whiskers off his chest and hold him at arm's length. The cat dangled there, paws windmilling in the air, still trying to land hits. A simple earth feline. I will not be bested by something that weighs less than my breakfast. That was his second mistake. His first was touching Mr. Whiskers. His second was implying Mr. Whiskers was simple. The cat's body went completely still in that way that all cat owners recognize as the calm before the storm. Then Mr. Whiskers did something I had only heard about in legends, whispered among the neighborhood kids. He rotated his spine like a furry corkscrew, twisted in Threxus' grip with the liquid grace of a gymnast on performance-enhancing tuna, and sank his teeth directly into the ambassador's thumb. Threxus dropped him immediately. It bit through my armor. How did it bite through my armor? Calculated bite force exceeds expected parameters for species this size, one of Velnu's collective reported, their scanner beeping frantically. This does not match the database. The database said they were docile. The database, I said from my safe position behind Aunt Maggie's recliner, has clearly never met Mr. Whiskers. Mr. Whiskers landed on all fours with the perfect balance of a trained acrobat, then immediately disappeared under the couch. The room went silent. 7 alien warriors in tactical gear stood frozen, staring at the couch like it might explode. Which, knowing Mr. Whiskers, it absolutely might. Where did it go? Threxus whispered, which was hilarious coming from a creature that size. Tactical visual on that couch. Velnu's collective spread out, scanners raised, moving with the coordinated precision of a SWAT team. They had training, they had technology, they had absolutely no idea what they were dealing with. Heat signature detected, one of them reported. Approximately 15.8 pounds, body temperature elevated, likely from exertion. Target is under furniture position Alpha. Should we engage? Another asked. Negative, Velnu decided. We maintain perimeter. The creature is contained. I almost felt bad for them. Almost. Aunt Maggie set down her teacup with a delicate clink. Would anyone like a cookie? They are snickerdoodles. Madame Morrison, Threxus said, his voice strained as he examined his damaged armor. Your creature has engaged in unprovoked hostilities against a diplomatic envoy. This is highly irregular. Oh, he is just playing, Aunt Maggie said cheerfully. He gets excited around new people. Playing, Threxus repeated flatly. Your species considers attempted homicide to be playing. He did not even break skin, dear. When Mr. Whiskers is serious, you know it. That should have been their cue to leave. Pack up, head back to space, file a report about Earth being too dangerous for diplomatic relations. But Threxus had pride. That stupid, galaxy-spanning pride that makes people do dumb things. I refuse to be intimidated by a creature 1/50th my size, he announced. I will establish dominance. I will show this Earth beast who commands respect in this galaxy. Please do not, I said. He ignored me. Threxus crouched down, his armor creaking, and peered under the couch. Come out, small warrior. Let us finish this honorably. Two green eyes stared back at him from the darkness. Unblinking. Calculating. Then Mr. Whiskers did something truly diabolical. He slow blinked. One deliberate lazy blink that cat behaviorists claim is a sign of affection and trust. It was not. It was psychological warfare. Threxus, not knowing any better, slow blinked back. See? We have reached an understanding. The creature respects Mr. Whiskers exploded from under the couch like a furry orange torpedo, executed a mid-air twist that defied physics, and landed directly on top of Velnu's head. The commander's antennae went rigid with shock. What is happening? Why is it on my head? Hive Collective, report! You have a cat on your head, ma'am, one of her collective helpfully observed. Mr. Whiskers had found the high ground and he was keeping it. He sat on Velnu's head like a particularly aggressive hat, tail wrapped around his paws, surveying his domain with the satisfaction of a general who had just won a decisive battle. Remove it, Velnu shrieked, which made her entire body vibrate and only seemed to make Mr. Whiskers more comfortable. He started, kneading her head with his paws, claws out, making biscuits like he was preparing bread dough for the world's worst bakery. That means he likes you, Aunt Maggie called out. He is giving you a massage. This is not a massage. This is an assault. My exoskeleton is not designed for ow. It found a nerve cluster. How did it find a nerve cluster? Threxus tried to help, reaching up to grab Mr. Whiskers. But the cat was ready. Without even looking, Mr. Whiskers' back leg shot out in a kick that caught Threxus square in the snout. It was the kind of casual violence that made it clear this was not even close to Mr. Whiskers' full power. He was toying with them. New tactical assessment, one of the Hive Collective said, their voice shaking slightly. The creature is not reacting. It is strategizing. Every move has been calculated. We are not fighting a simple animal. We are fighting a tactician. It is a cat, Threxus insisted, nursing his snout. No, I said, finally stepping out, from behind the recliner. Mr. Whiskers is not a cat. He is a lifestyle choice. He is what happens when evolution gets bored and decides to make something perfectly designed to humble the proud. As if to emphasize my point, Mr. Whiskers hopped down from Velnu's head, sauntered over to the coffee table where the aliens had spread out their invasion plans and mission briefing, and sat directly on top of them, not next to them. On them. He made eye contact with Threxus, his single green eye glowing with what I can only describe as smug superiority, and slowly, deliberately, pushed a pen off the table. It clattered to the floor. The aliens stared at the pen, then at the cat, then at each other. Did it just... Velnu started. It knows what it did, I confirmed. And it will do it again. Mr. Whiskers pushed another pen off the table. Maintained eye contact the entire time. Did not even blink. We need to leave, one of the Hive Collective whispered. This world is not safe. The creatures here have evolved beyond our understanding. We are not retreating from a domesticated feline, Threxus roared. which only made Mr. Whiskers' ears flatten again. The cat's tail began to swish. Left, right, left. Oh boy, I muttered. He is about to engage Phase 2. Phase 2? Velnu asked. The zoomies. The what? But it was too late. Mr. Whiskers' pupils dilated to full moons. His body lowered into a crouch, and then he was off. He tore around the living room at approximately the speed of sound, bouncing off furniture, ricocheting off walls, defying gravity and common sense. The aliens scattered, their tactical formation completely abandoned, as a 17-pound ball of orange chaos turned Aunt Maggie's living room into his personal racetrack. He ran up the curtains. He launched off the bookshelf. He somehow achieved enough velocity to run sideways along the wall for 3 full strides before physics caught up with him. The Hive Collective tried to track him with their scanners, but he was moving too fast. He was everywhere and nowhere. He was chaos incarnate. And then, just as suddenly as it started, he stopped. Mr. Whiskers sat down in the middle of the floor, perfectly calm, and began grooming his paw like absolutely nothing had happened. The aliens stood there, panting, armor dented, dignity shattered, staring at the cat in horrified silence. Aunt Maggie took a sip of her tea. See? I told you he was friendly today. Last week he brought in a raccoon. A live raccoon. That was much worse. Threxus looked at me, his reptilian face somehow managing to convey the universal expression of defeated acceptance. Human Jake, your species lives with these creatures? Voluntarily? Some of us have multiple, I said. I have 3 at home. The color drained from his scales, which I did not even know was possible. Commander Velnu was the first to crack. Her antennae drooped in a way that her Hive Collective would probably never let her live down, and she tapped her communicator with a trembling claw. This is Commander Velnu to diplomatic shuttle, requesting immediate extraction. Repeat, immediate extraction. Extraction? The pilot's voice crackled through. Commander, you have only been on site for 17 minutes. The cultural exchange is scheduled for 3 hours. The schedule, Velnu said, her voice tight, has been revised. We are leaving. Now. Threxus tried to salvage what remained of his dignity, which at this point was approximately nothing. We are not fleeing from a single organism the size of a... Mr. Whiskers stood up and stretched, his back arching like a furry rainbow, claws extending to dig into Aunt Maggie's carpet. The stretch seemed to go on forever, each vertebra popping individually, the sound echoing through the room like a countdown to doom. Extraction confirmed, Threxus said immediately into his own communicator. Prepare for emergency departure. Oh, you are leaving already? Aunt Maggie looked, genuinely disappointed. But I made so many cookies. At least take some for the road. I insist. She bustled into the kitchen, leaving 7 trained alien warriors alone with Mr. Whiskers. The cat sat back down and began the most menacing activity known to the galaxy. A slow, deliberate bath. He licked his paw, dragged it over his remaining eye, and stared at them the entire time. It is mocking us, one of the Hive Collective whispered. Grooming in front of us is a dominance display. It is saying we are not even worth attacking right now. Incorrect tactical assessment, another replied. It is conserving energy, planning the next strike. We need to reach the exit. The problem was that Mr. Whiskers sat between them and the front door, not directly blocking it, but close enough that any attempt to leave would require passing within his strike range. It was a classic choke point, and the cat knew exactly what he was doing. Threxus evaluated their options. Can we exit through an alternate route? Window? Back door? That would be cowardly, Velnu said, though her voice suggested she was absolutely considering it. Strategic retreat is not cowardice, Threxus countered. It is survival. I almost felt bad for them. Almost. But then I remembered the entire council laughing at Earth, calling us soft, claiming we had no dangerous wildlife. This was educational, character building, the kind of lesson the galaxy needed. Mr. Whiskers finished grooming his paw and moved on to grooming his hindquarters, which somehow made the situation even more humiliating for the aliens. They were being treated as so non-threatening that the cat was literally showing them his backside. We move as a unit, Threxus decided. Tight formation. Maintain visual contact with the target. On my mark, we proceed to the exit with maximum efficiency. They formed up like they were breaching a hostile compound instead of trying to leave a grandmother's house. Scanners raised, armor systems, humming, moving in perfect synchronization. Mr. Whiskers yawned, showing all his teeth and his sandpaper tongue. Mark. Threxus whispered. They moved. 3 careful steps toward the door. Mr. Whiskers did not react. 4 steps. 5. They were going to make it. Victory was in sight. The front door was right there. That was when Aunt Maggie returned from the kitchen with a tin of cookies, and Mr. Whiskers saw his opportunity. He darted between their legs, weaving through their formation like a running back dodging tackles, and planted himself directly in front of the door. His tail curled around his paws. His single eye gleamed with absolute authority. The message was clear. Nobody leaves without his permission. How do we negotiate with it? Velnu asked. What does it want? Tribute, I suggested. Probably, or just respect. Maybe both. With Mr. Whiskers, it is hard to tell. Aunt Maggie pushed past the aliens, completely unbothered, and scratched Mr. Whiskers behind his ears. Cat immediately melted into a purring puddle of contentment, rubbing against her legs like he had not just spent the last 20 minutes engaging in psychological warfare. Who is Aunt Maggie's handsome boy? She cooed. Who is the best kitty in the whole world? Mr. Whiskers purred louder, his entire body vibrating with smug satisfaction. The creature responds to verbal praise from its primary caregiver, one of the Hive Collective observed. Perhaps we can replicate. Do not, I interrupted. Trust me, do not. But Threxus was desperate. He knelt down, his damaged armor creaking, and attempted the same tone Aunt Maggie had used. Who is a good feline? Mr. Whiskers stopped purring. His head swiveled to face Threxus with the mechanical precision of a turret acquiring a target. The look he gave the ambassador could have curdled milk at 50 paces. Incorrect approach, Velnu assessed. Hostility levels rising. Recommend abort. Here, dear, Aunt Maggie said, pulling a small bag of treats from her cardigan pocket. She shook it, producing a rattling sound that made Mr. Whiskers' ears perk up instantly. Want a treat, Mr. Whiskers? Want a yummy treat? The cat's priorities shifted immediately. Aunt Maggie tossed a treat toward the kitchen, and Mr. Whiskers bolted after it like his life depended on it, temporarily abandoning his post. Go, I hissed. Now, while he is distracted. The aliens did not need to be told twice. They scrambled for the door with all the grace of a panicked herd, practically trampling each other in their rush to escape. Threxus hit the doorframe with his shoulder. Velnu's collective tangled themselves in each other's legs, and the whole group tumbled out onto the porch in a heap of armor and wounded pride. Their shuttle pilot, seeing the commotion, had already lowered the boarding ramp. The aliens sprinted across Aunt Maggie's perfectly manicured lawn, leaving divots in the grass that would definitely come up at the next HOA meeting. From the doorway, Mr. Whiskers returned with his treat, chewing thoughtfully, and watched them flee. If a cat could smirk, he was doing it. Aunt Maggie waved cheerfully at the departing shuttle. Come back any time, and tell your friends about my cookies. The shuttle's engines screamed to life, and they were airborne in seconds, ascending so fast I was pretty sure they violated several atmospheric flight regulations. Inside the ship, their medical officer was probably already filing incident reports. Scratches, bite marks, shattered confidence, and bruised egos. All inflicted by 17 pounds of orange tabby on a Tuesday afternoon in Ohio. I helped Aunt Maggie clean up the teacups, while Mr. Whiskers claimed victory by taking a nap on the exact spot where Threxus had been standing. They seem nice, Aunt Maggie said. A bit jumpy, though. Do you think they will visit again? I looked at Mr. Whiskers, snoring peacefully with his paws in the air, looking like the most innocent creature in the universe. No, Aunt Maggie, I said. I really do not think they will. The emergency council session was called exactly 4 hours after the shuttle returned to the orbital station. I had never seen a galactic assembly convene so quickly, which meant either someone had died or someone had experienced something worse than death. Judging by the look on Threxus's face, it was definitely the latter. The council chamber was packed. Word had spread. Everyone wanted to hear what had happened on Earth that required an emergency diplomatic session. Threxus stood at the central podium, his armor still showing claw marks, looking like he had aged 10 years in a single afternoon. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice hoarse. I stand before you today a humbled warrior. Earth is not the paradise world we believed it to be. Earth is, in fact, a Class X death world of the highest order, and humanity has somehow survived there for millennia through sheer insanity and adaptation. The chamber erupted in confused murmuring. A Class X designation was reserved for planets where even breathing the air could kill you, where the weather actively tried to murder you, where evolution had given up trying to make sense. Commander Velnu stepped forward, her antennae still slightly bent from the earlier encounter. We recommend immediate implementation of the Earth Accords, a comprehensive set of protocols for any future interaction with humanity and their planet. A holographic document appeared in the center of the chamber. I read through it, trying not to laugh. Article 1, Velnu continued. Earth is hereby reclassified as a Class X death world. All personnel visiting Earth must undergo psychological preparation and sign liability waivers. Article 2. Under no circumstances should any galactic citizen attempt physical contact with Earth felines, regardless of size, demeanor, or apparent friendliness. These creatures are apex predators masquerading as companions. Article 3. Humans are to be recognized as the galaxy's most formidable species, not for their technology or physical prowess, but for their ability to coexist with creatures that view them as staff rather than masters. The council sat in stunned silence. Finally, Ambassador Cleth, a crystalline being who rarely spoke, chimed in with a voice like wind through caves. You are telling this assembly that you were defeated by a single domesticated animal? One creature? Domesticated is a generous term, Threxus said darkly. That implies control. That implies hierarchy. The creature we encountered recognized no authority but its own. It has humans convinced they are its caretakers, when in reality, they are hostages suffering from advanced Stockholm Syndrome. I raised my hand. If I may address the council? Human Jake, Threxus said, gesturing to me. Please, enlighten us. How does your species survive daily exposure to such creatures? I stood, trying to maintain my diplomatic composure. Well, Ambassador, we have been living with cats for roughly 10,000 years. We have learned to read their moods, respect their boundaries, and accept that we are not actually in charge. We provide food, shelter, and medical care. In return, they occasionally sit near us and sometimes purr. We call it companionship. You feed them voluntarily? Velnu asked, horrified. Yes, twice a day, sometimes more if they are persuasive. And they still attack you? Sometimes, I admitted, usually around 3 in the morning. For no reason. It keeps us alert. The council exchanged glances that clearly communicated they thought humanity was collectively insane. There is more, I added, because apparently I hated myself. Mr. Whiskers is actually considered a relatively calm cat by Earth standards. Some cats are more energetic, more aggressive, more creative in their reign of terror. More? Threxus's voice cracked. There are more. Aggressive variants? Oh, sure. Different breeds, different personalities. Some cats are basically small lions. Others are just fluffy dictators. The variety is part of the charm. Charm, he repeated, like the word had personally offended him. And, I continued, really committing to this now. Many humans have multiple cats. I personally have 3 at home. The silence that followed was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop in a vacuum. 3, Velnu finally said. You willingly house 3 of these creatures in your dwelling. Yes. Their names are Princess Fluffington, Lord Murderface, and Steve. You named one of them Lord Murderface and you still live with it? He came with the name when I adopted him. Seemed accurate, so I kept it. Threxus sank into his chair, all pretense of ambassadorial dignity abandoned. Humanity is either the bravest species in the galaxy or the most foolish. I have not yet determined which. Cannot it be both? I offered. Passed unanimously. No debate, no amendments, just a collective agreement that Earth was too dangerous for casual visits, and humans were too strange to fully understand. I became something of a legend after that, the human who survived not just years on a death world, but years sharing living space with multiple apex predators who demanded regular meals and clean bathrooms. Trade negotiations became significantly easier. When you have a reputation for casually cohabitating with creatures that made trained warriors flee in terror, other species tend to take your trade proposals more seriously. Earth's position in the galactic community improved overnight, all thanks to one orange tabby with an attitude problem and impeccable timing. A week later, I received a formal communication from Threxus. It was brief. How is Mr. Whiskers? Please confirm he remains contained to your aunt's residence and has no access to space travel. I sent back a photo. Mr. Whiskers, sitting in a sunbeam, looking like butter would not melt in his mouth. One eye closed in what might have been a wink or might have been a threat. The caption read, "He says hello. He remembers you fondly." Threxus never responded, but I did notice that Earth's defense budget requests started getting approved without question. And at home, Princess Fluffington knocked my coffee off the counter while maintaining eye contact. Lord Murderface brought me a dead moth at 2 in the morning as a gift, and Steve just screamed at his own reflection for 10 minutes straight. Just another Tuesday living on humanity's secret weapon of a planet, where we had somehow convinced ourselves that tiny furry sociopaths made excellent roommates. The galaxy thought we were warriors. We were just really, really good at Stockholm Syndrome and pretending everything was fine. Honestly, that might be humanity's greatest superpower after all.